Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, continuing on with Season 4, I'm speaking about the episode, The Estrangement, when Vera Walton comes to Walton's Mountain because she has left Waite. Vera's been having trouble adjusting to life in the city. Of course, everyone had to leave the mountain in the conflict, and now Vera finds that city life just doesn't agree with her, and she feels like she never sees Waite, that he's changed, that he's not working, maybe he has other women. So she brings baby Floyd with her to the Walton house, shows up in a taxi and basically asks if she can stay for a bit. And naturally, the Waltons take her in. Meanwhile, Ben is at Ike's and has received all kinds of letters that he is very mysterious about. He won't tell Ike at all what these letters are. So Ben has another business venture going on. Vera is blaming John Boy for what's going on with Waite because she feels that John Boy put ideas in Wade's head about how he could take his wood carving and turn it into a business, and giving him big ideas about the city, and that they didn't work out. And so because of that, Waite is now sort of lost and is not the man she feels like she married. John Boy and John decide they're going to go find Waite and have a conversation with him, see what's going on. We see Waite, he's working at like a wood factory or whatever, on a lathe, and he comes out of work, and he's not necessarily going home after. He's going out maybe for drinks with his co-workers, but he has a partner, and the two of them are running moonshine for his grandpa Boone. So this is like destined to be trouble. In this scene where John and John Boy wait for Waite, because there was so much light on the house, I thought, oh, is this the daytime? And then Waite pulls up and he's coming through the shadows, and he says something about, what are you doing out here in the dark?
Hey, what are you doing standing out here in the dark?
So another case of how difficult it is to light for nighttime, whether you shoot in the day or you shoot at night. You need enough light to be able to see what's going on, but if you put too much light on, then it looks like it's daytime, and if you shoot in the day, it's hard to cover all the sun. We've talked about this, but it really is an incredible challenge. This house set was on the back lot of Warner Brothers Studios near sort of the Western Street area where the church was and where we always saw the sheriff's office and the bus depot. As John and John Boy hear Wade's side of things, he basically says that he's been very frustrated with Vera because she won't leave the house. When the neighbors come to visit, she won't answer. She hides, that she never goes out. And anytime he suggests trying to do something, all Vera says is it costs too much.
Every time we've lived here, she's been saying so-and-so costs too much. How'd you like to take in a picture show? Costs too much. How'd you like a Victrola? Costs too much.
He's incredibly frustrated that he's making money, but she won't even consider spending any of it. So we now have the two sides to the story. A perfect scene for Will as he takes Ben and Jim Bob and Elizabeth. They're out in the woods on the mountain, and he's talking about the various different plants and pointing them out and their Latin names. And this would have really been Will. This was who Will was in real life. This could have been a conversation that happened without the camera rolling. So this might be one of those times when Will sort of was ad-libbing because he knew all of this stuff. So we have that opportunity to hear Will, and he's sharing nature facts. And Zeb loved to share that with the family, and Will loved to share that in real life.
Grandpa? Are you as old as that tree over there?
Well, I'm not as old as that, no.
And now we find out what Ben's new business venture is. He has planted little seedlings, little trees, and he is planning to sell those. And that's what those letters were. They were orders for these seedlings. And so he has recruited Jim Bob and Elizabeth to pack up these seedlings nice and keep the roots wet and all of that, so that he can ship them off to these people who have purchased them, and he will share some of that money with Jim Bob and Elizabeth. Things are not going well for Waite. He ends up getting arrested for transporting moonshine. Sheriff Bridges shows up and he is taken to jail. So John Boy comes, riding up and says, Wade's in jail and, they should get him out. And John sends John Boy up the mountain to find Boone and let him deal with it. The next stop that Ep Bridges makes is at the Walton house, where we find out that Ben is also in trouble with the law because he does not have a grower's license to be growing and selling these seedlings. And then he also says that they have been getting complaints from people who have received these seedlings that they're either dead upon arrival or shortly after they're transplanted. Now, Grandpa takes a little bit of blame on this because...
Zeb, you ought to know that young pine's got to be at least 2 years old before you transplant them.
Yes, yes, I had ought to know that.
He doesn't say, well, that's really was all Ben. I don't know why, but it was nice of him to try and take some blame. But even he says to Ben that these are not the types of trees that were designed to be grown in non-mountainous areas. So Ben's tree selling business is a bust, and he's going to have to work out how to repay the money or he's going to be in bigger trouble. So Ep figures that they can probably work out if Ben repays the money that the charges would not be pursued. Ben asks for a loan from Daddy, and Daddy basically says, you can work it off with chores and you can start now. Waite has gotten out of jail and he comes to get Vera to go home. But Vera basically says that she's not going if Waite is still planning to be running moonshine, and that he just needs to decide really what's important to him. And Waite is furious. He argues with John Boy again and he now says it was all John Boy's fault. And then he is going to go and get Vera and take her out of the shed. And John basically gets in his face and even pushes him down.
I'm tired of that woman. I'm getting her right now, even if I have to knock down that door.
Now, wait a minute. This is my property here. You're not going to knock down any door.
And gives him a serious talking to about how he needs to get his life together. He needs to put his house in order. He needs to get a job. And he needs to really be a husband and a father to Vera. Or John's going to have more of an issue with him, including beating the tar out of him.
Either you can get yourself honest work and take care of your family, or I'm going to have to thrash you from here to Rockfish.
Wade goes for a long walk on the mountain to think about what he wants and how he's going to deal with his life. He comes back to the house as the family's sitting down for dinner and more or less says that he recognizes what his problems are and what the issues are, and he recognizes what Vera needs and wants in this marriage, and that he has decided that they will get a piece of land on the mountain. He'll find some land, and that he will build that house he always promised to build for Vera, and that they will live this simpler life. And he's going to try making his wood carvings again and see if he can't make a go of that. And in the meantime, John has offered him a job at the mill because he said that he has some fine woodwork, carving work that could really use Wade's hand. So Wade is going to do some work for the Waltons while he gets back on his feet and while they figure out how to move up to the mountain. It was great to have these two wonderful actors back on the show. It was Lindsey V Jones playing Vera, and then of course Richard Hatch. I always loved Richard. I crossed paths with him any number of times over the years. And of course, he went on to star in Battlestar Galactica, many incarnations of that, as well as Streets of San Francisco, soap operas Santa Barbara and All My Children. And sadly, he passed away from cancer in 2017. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the Season 4 episode, The Estrangement. I'll be back with more Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy, and some special guests coming up. Thanks for watching.